What's up, everybody? Welcome to Real Talk Real Estate with Trevor and Brit.
Hey, we're back for another live Wednesday. What's going on? So, we do every Wednesday. We're talking about real estate and everything in between. So, first we're going to start off with our classic seller topics. So, what is the cost of skipping your pre-listing prep? What does that mean? The stuff, all the work that goes into what you have to do before you list your house. What can that cost you? Do you want to lose thousands of dollars? If so, skip the prep. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so, if I'm doing a seller consult, I'm definitely saying that the first thing that you have to do is declutter the house, because nobody wants to go into your house and see all your crap.
Yes. Clean up, please.
Clean it up.
Please clean up. We want you guys to clean your house.
Make it look more professional or clean, less decluttered, less personalized. They don't want to see your family pictures or portraits or whatever, baby's first Christmas, any of that. So get all of that precious stuff put away, have it nice, tidy, and organized, and be decluttered from, anybody having to look at your stuff.
Because remember, guys, I know that obviously your home is your home and it's of sentimental value, right? But you have to think from a consumer mindset. You have to think about what you would want to see if you're looking into a house trying to make it your home. You're going to get distracted by pictures of families or certain things. If there's, religious sentiments or anything like that, you want to kind of give it a clean slate so that the person walking into the house you're getting ready to sell or you're selling can say, "Ooh, I can see myself living here." Not, "Oh, there's the weird stuff happening in the family room that you guys love." Yes, but right. It's not, you don't want to have that stuff because
not everybody's the same.
Yeah.
Not everybody's the same. So big, first type of item is, obviously declutter your house.
Yeah, for sure.
Less depersonalize it, I believe is the technical term, is what we use in the real estate industry, is depersonalize. I would say other things would be small repairs. We've kind of talked about in the past, paint can definitely be a hindrance or a red flag for people just from the pictures alone. So, I think I use the turquoise color or the bright reds or whatever. Pictures right off the cuff. If we can, get rid of those hideous colors and more neutral tones, that definitely helps make it more open to a consumer when you're going to tour a house, for sure.
Now, are these things mandatory?
No.
They're not mandatory, guys. So don't think my house is not going to sell if I don't do all these things. Now, decluttering is a must. That's a must. That has to happen no matter what. Irregardless, it has to happen.
Yes.
But at the same token, painting, small repairs, you don't necessarily have to do those. Do they make your house sell, better, look better, more appealing? 100%. Yeah. And then also you have to think about, if your house is empty. I know I get a lot of questions say, should we stage it? If you can, yes.
Yes.
There are workarounds that you can talk with your agent about in regards to, who pays for it, how those things go. And if you have questions about that, please feel free to hit us in the questions at the bottom, or send us, either one of us, a personal DM if you have some questions in regards to staging and not staging and how you can work around or figure out what you have to do with that. So
you want it to feel like it's move-in ready. People, when they're touring, they want to be able to see that you're ready to go. It's, it's turnkey. You don't have to do anything. You can just back the moving truck in and start unloading and be able to live there right off the cuff. And those types of houses sell faster, for sure. There's just overall great situations that when you have it even staged, at least people get to see what the house's potential really is for furniture, or what you can and can't kind of do. Whereas there's nothing wrong with having a blank canvas either. A lot of people like to just kind of figure it out on the fly, but at the end of the day, as a consumer looking at a house, you want the house to feel like a home. And when you have it semi-staged, you can see those things that make it feel like it's a home, as opposed to a blank canvas. And sometimes it feels bigger or smaller depending on the house.
So what that looks like, you got to think about the psyche of the consumer and what that looks like, when you have a turnkey property versus when you have a project. And when we say you can lose thousands of dollars, you can, because when people come in and they see that the house has to be painted, or the light fixtures have to be changed, or even the house has to be clean, like in their mind, they're seeing clutter. So they're like, okay, I need to take money off that for that. I need to, lower the price because of this. And so you're going to lose money when you don't do those small little things. So that's what we say. We don't want you guys to lose money when you're talking about putting your house on the market for sale. So make sure you do those things. Declutter. If it needs to be painted, a fresh coat of paint could increase your value. Like a fresh coat of paint or like a few gallons could cost you, what, $40-$50 for 1 gallon, obviously, because gallons of paint are high.
I was gonna say,
gallons. I was gonna say
5 gallons of paint's probably like $200.
Yeah, so and that's probably what you need for the average size house, even if you're talking about living room and dining room. So just for that, the basic measures, like you just gotta spend that money up front because it's worth it so much on the end, and we don't want you guys to walk away with less money than you deserve. Especially, and always remember, too, when you're dealing with putting your house up for sale, it all goes back to pricing when you talk about selling. So if we know that, if we're selling a house that we don't want to, the client doesn't want to paint, that's fine. But we have to account for that in the pricing.
Yep.
Every single time.
Yeah.
So trust us.
Skip out on the prep, bank on a price reduction. Mm-hmm. That's probably the simplest way to say it, is if you skip out on all these small details, those small details add up, and ultimately the consumer's going to reflect that in their price for you, or you're going to end up having to do a price reduction. I know that I've done a handful of houses prep for clients, and we made these simple things, making sure the lights are good to go, light fixtures, bright lights, paint's clean and neutral colored, making sure everything is nice and tidy and staged. And we have gotten multiple offers on multiple different times for my seller. So, and they were able to choose the best situation or best offer for them moving forward, so that they were able to get the best bang for their buck, whether it was term or price, because those are two different things, especially when you're on the sell side. Most of the time either get terms or you get price. So it's just kind of a side note. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that, and I don't know if we've really touched on terms, right, when it comes to that. So we can kind of touch on that just a little bit to help you guys understand what we mean when we say terms. So there's obviously variables when you get an offer. So you list your house for sale. The house goes up, you get offers. We lay them out in front of you, and we say, okay, let's look at what the best terms are. So whether it's waiving an inspection, which we'll talk about in a second, how long it's going to take for the inspection, how long, honestly, some people are always, making sure if they're pre-qualified or, pre-approved. Those are two different things when you talk about a buyer. If they've gone all the way through the process of submitting documents, or they just gave them a pre-qualification or a pre-approval based on just the basic information. All those things matter when it comes to terms and what is going to happen at the end. Like, how fast are we going to get to the closing table? Those are the terms. Those are the things that we look at when we're looking at terms of selling a house.
Yeah, and even more so, you need to sell to buy. Another term would be occupancy. Basically, buyer buys the house on the first of the month, but they're going to give the seller 30 to 60 days of occupancy so that they can go still live in the house and go buy their next house. Mm-hmm. So like those are all like variables of terms that could be used, the inspection, waiving inspection, not always, in my opinion, is recommended do the inspection, whether it's for informational purposes only, but always do an inspection. But that's just kind of my professional opinion. I would say
the same thing.
Mine. But like those are just some type of different terms that we see on our end from a real estate perspective that we end up presenting to our clients and help them get to the best offer that's best for them.
Yeah, 100%. So when we talk about inspections, I know, especially like in the era of like between 2020 and 2022, you don't see it as much now. People are waiving the inspections, which is causing sellers to choose those offers, which again is another term that people are saying, that's a term. Like, oh, do they have an inspection? Do they not have an inspection? If these people don't have an inspection, I'm going to go with this offer instead. But how can you as a buyer win the house without waiving the inspection? You don't have to skip your inspection to compete. You just need to be very strategic. It's all about strategy, guys, especially when it is either or. Buyer's market, seller's market, irregardless, where we're sitting right now, yes, the playing field has leveled out a little bit, but we're still seeing competition. There are still a lot of buyers out there. The housing shortage is still real, very real.
Especially
today.
in Metro Detroit.
100%. So you got to be strategic. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the means, fortunate enough, if you work with me, obviously I'm a licensed builder, so I have that extra knowledge and whatnot. But if you don't have, say, a me that's a realtor and a licensed builder who has all that knowledge, you can, if you have the time, take your contractor with you. So on like the projects that are the homes that are actual projects,
right.
If it's more ready to go, turnkey, you should put all your ducks in a row type thing, but that's just one way of like a pre-inspection. So basically not waiving, but doing all your pretty much due diligence before you actually go under contract.
Yeah. I had a client that every time we went to go see a house, they had the contractor with them. Every time. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. Even if the house said turnkey, he brought the contractor because he wanted to make sure before he wrote the offer that it looked legitimately what it said in the description or based on the pictures or whatever needs or whatever kind of money he was going to have to spend after they closed. They wanted to know. So what they do, they brought the contractor with them. And everybody has, a contractor. So if it makes the most sense for you, bring a contractor. Obviously, we have resources to be able to provide to you. Would they be of cost? For sure. Most of the time they are, unless you know that person and they're willing to do a favor. But when you got somebody like Trevor, he's a builder. So he knows, estimated costs. Obviously, everything is estimated. So don't take our word for gold. Mm-hmm. But at the same token, have that stuff done, pre-inspection before writing an offer, if time allows. I know that it's a tight market. I know that things are shifting and everything is happening right now in the market. Mm-hmm. It's wild. But at the same token, if you have time and if it suggests like, hey, I'm looking at a fixer-upper, why not? Before you even write the offer. Because you don't want to waste your time, the seller's time, the realtor's time. Nobody wants to waste time in this day and age. So do those things beforehand, and that could definitely help you being strategic and writing your offer and actually winning without having to waive an inspection.
And I think we kind of touched on it a few minutes ago, but you can put in your offer, still do your inspection if you don't have the time or didn't have the time to do as much of the due diligence, or you didn't have a me to be able to go or a contractor to go with you for the tour to see if you see any glaring red flags with the house. So you can do an informational inspection, which basically means you're not waiving it, you're still doing it, but you're going to say that you are going to pretty much not
take the house as is.
Yeah, you're going to take the house as is. You're not going to go back and try to beat the seller up for XYZ repairs. You like the house, you still want to buy the house
irregardless of what's going on. You just want the inspection for information. I just want a list of what's happening so I know what to do once we close. So that's another way, like you said, winning your offer without waiving it. Informational purposes, you can get somebody in there within 24, 48 hours, even if it's not 24, 48 hours, do the inspection, you're good to go. I know I got a list of things I got to do, and I'm good. I'm not coming back to the seller. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking for any price reduction. Remember, when you do an informational only inspection, there is no price reduction. There are no, I need the seller to do this. You're buying it as is.
Yep.
And that is it. And that's how that's how you're strategic in writing an offer, because you already know, if you know the house and you know you want it, this is the block that you want to be on, you've been trying to get this house for X amount of time, and this is it. Don't waste your time. Do it informational only. I would suggest that to anybody who is very familiar with houses and how things work. I wouldn't suggest that to a person that is a first-time home buyer.
No.
Not for a first-time home buyer, 100%.
Especially, this is kind of more of a tangent, but from a first-time home buyer, you have, or from a buyer's perspective in general, you normally have two major contingencies. Obviously, your purchase agreement has other built-in, depending on what is inserted and whatnot, or every house is different. But if you're a first-time home buyer, your biggest contingency is inspection, and then your second is mortgage. So if you waive your inspection, there's not that anybody's trying to back out of buying a house, but you only have basically one more contingency fall back on type thing. But sorry, that was more of a minor tangent. Another thing would be do your inspection, but you're either not going to beat up the seller for anything, or you're just going to waive any of the minor repairs and just kind of keep going back to informational.
Right, like gutters and chip paint and the cabinet doors aren't level, like silly stuff like that.
Yeah.
Guys, you don't need to ask for the seller to fix the
No.
cabinet. You can fix it yourself. You can fix something small, but that major stuff like a roof, okay, yeah. That's a different story. But that little baby stuff,
Yeah.
keep that stuff just
Only, I would say only focus on the actual safety issues than the nitpicky.
And then you get into a little bit the differences depending on your mortgage product. If it's FHA or if it's conventional, then you have to look at it a little bit differently, because FHA requires their own inspection, and those are the top major concerns. If everything in the house is functioning, and then there's that chip paint. Gosh, FHA, you got chip paint, it's got to go for most of the time. Now you might get a different inspector that might do a little bit something different, but for the most part, everything has to be in working order and working condition. No safety concerns for FHA. Conventional is a little bit different. You can get away with some of this stuff, but when you're doing an FHA loan, keep in mind that everything has to be safe for the person that's moving into the house. So keep that in mind when you walk through the house, especially as a first-time home buyer. If you see any safety concerns, trip hazards, anything hanging, falling, chipping, all of that stuff has to be fixed. And I've seen a lot of times too where people, like the sellers, know for sure they're not going to fix anything. They don't even accept FHA because of the fact that they're not going to put any money to it. They don't want to. They don't care to. If you want to do inspection, go ahead, but they don't care what you come back with because they're not fixing it. So with those, you already know. Like, and that's where your realtor comes in, making sure before we even go to see a house, we're checking if they're taking FHA when you have FHA product, because you don't want to waste time and going to see houses and you fall in love and then you can't get it because the seller doesn't want to fix it. Yeah. So all those smaller items keep negotiable. And then you think about shorter inspection periods. I know for a fact most of my inspectors can get out within 24 to 48 hours. Most of them. I have really great inspector partners. So if you can shorten that window to 2 days, and I know my client's going to love a house, I'll call as soon as we leave, before we write the offer. Hey, can I hold a spot tomorrow at 12? Or can I hold a spot on Thursday? Like, I will call and get a spot held. And if something doesn't happen, then cool, at least I had it. But being able to do that for my clients is good. That's why you want to have a realtor that has great vendor partners and great relationships with vendors, because we need that. That's how we help you guys win your offers and sell your homes.
And I mean, like, I think it goes back to like us as realtors. Like, we have the confidence that we know that our client's going to win this offer. So I always like almost preemptively just schedule it. Yeah. Like, be like, I tell the selling agent, like, I'm going to do the inspection on this day. It's already pre-booked, and just so your seller knows that we're serious and we want this house, and you should not saying it without saying it is you should take our offer. That's just another back end. Yeah, right. Another back end thing is just doing the things that we need to do to help our clients get to the house, and the shorter inspection period, getting an inspector scheduled before you even under contract, and that's huge. Worst things that happens is we have to cancel our inspector, which they know the gig, so unfortunately stuff happens. So they'll get a different one on the next one, but it's just another way to differentiate yourself to win the offer. Yeah, it just shows that we're on it, you're on it, and that the seller sees that we're all on it and on the same page to get this to closing.
The closing table. That's the most important thing, guys, getting to the closing table. And when you do small things like this, it helps the sellers on the other side. When you're a buyer, it helps the sellers feel confident. They feel really confident about your offer and looking at it and taking into account, especially, and again, as realtors, we are, connection and relationship based people. So being able to have relationships with the agents on the other side, so that we have those conversations preemptively on your behalf to say, hey, we're really serious. We've already done this. We shortened our inspection period, or we're only doing informational purposes. Talking to those sellers beforehand, or the seller agents beforehand, so that they can relay those messages to the seller, so they can feel good about accepting your offer in a multiple offer situation. So always think about those things. Always, 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 always have those conversations about different variations of what you can do to win the offer. Make sure your agent thinks outside the box, because if you're in the box, you're not winning the offer. All right, so we have, of course, another topic. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to make sure that you comment in the comment box below or send us a DM. Send us a direct message. We can both be contacted through our social media channels. Mine is at the Brittany Fulton, and Trevor's is
at Trevor Courier _KW.
Yes. So make sure you reach out to us. Again, Trevor is a licensed builder as well as a broker, associate broker here at Keller Williams Domain. I myself am a pretty seasoned investor here in the Metro Detroit area, as well as a realtor at Keller Williams Domain. So when we're talking about investors, let's talk about the real cost of how long is holding too long. When you're doing a flip, how long is holding too long? I done seen some houses on the market the other day. I saw 268 days. I'm like, God damn. Stuff happens. I get it, but how long is too long, guys? Well, what do you think? Mention, but how long is too long to hold?
I mean, just generally speaking, if you're on the market for 260 days, you've probably priced it wrong. Most of the time, I see from like the flipping perspective is that they don't want to lose money, so they'll list it for, they did their flip costs, and they don't want to cut into their profit margin because they have either hard money lenders they have to pay, or they have banked in profits that they don't want to lose. But it all goes back to every month you're more than likely they're paying the taxes, insurance, your utilities, the general maintenance of lawn care and whatever, because if you don't take care of your investment properties, the city is going to hit you up with a fine, or do it for you and then hit you up with a fine. So all these different things, sometimes if you're able to do it as a mortgage, you're gonna have to pay the mortgage too. So if you're on the market for 100 or 260 days, 160 days, whatever you said, all those figures add up. So what is your return, or what's your holding cost how is that going to affect your bottom line?
It's money leaking out of your pockets the longer you hold it. So again, like we always say, pricing matters. So we say it all the time. And make sure, guys, when you're investing in these properties, make sure you do your numbers on the front end, and provide yourself with cushion at all times. Cushion matters so much. I'd rather you cushion extra than cushion under and be stuck.
I think that's kind of one of our most common things we've said the last 3 weeks.
For sure.
There's only so many different ways you can talk about it, but
Cushion.
Have a reserve or have a safety net, because if you do need to cut bait, you don't want to lose your ass completely.
And then think about too your contractors' timelines. And obviously we know, or most investors know, and even if you're looking into investing, you want to think about the timeline. Your timeline is so important in keeping that. So if you don't have a general contractor, if you're the one managing the project, make sure have your people in line to be up next when it's time, when plumbing's done, or then you do the flooring, and then, all the layers on top. Know your timeline, because if your timeline is skewed and you don't have that cushion of a timeline, not just in financing, your cushion of a timeline as well. If you don't have that, then you're going to end up spending money. Spending way too money. It ends up eating into your profits. Everything happens when you don't know. If you're not knowledgeable, especially about those numbers when it comes to investing, find somebody that is. There are several real estate offices that you can call and get an agent that works with investors or investment properties that can help you navigate through that process. So don't forget to reach out.
I've got a great example. So we, ways back, did a project on a flip. I was just kind of an investor, and I wasn't involved in the construction or whatever, but it took 2 years to do the flip, and this was like a very high upscale flip, and it was only supposed to take like a year, because this was like take it down to the studs and just totally like adding a bunch of extra additions, and ran into major permitting issues with the city, or the city more or less became very difficult to deal with. And it took 2 years. We were only supposed to do it in one, and that ended up costing like an extra $30,000 in just straight up holding costs from like interest and from the hard money lenders. So like, again, timelines matter.
Cushions
matter. Budgets matter.
Yes.
So don't take any of that for granted. And there's pro formas that can help you calculate those calculations to make sure that you're in the black versus the red when you're doing a flip or an investment property, and you should always do your homework on the front half before you buy and have the cushions in place.
Yeah, and if, like I said, and if you don't know anybody that can do that for you, or if you don't know how to do it yourself, find somebody that's an expert in doing it, because you do not, I repeat, do not want to mess up with those numbers, because you'll end up upside down. And I've seen it way too many times where people buy investments, don't realize the cost, and then they can't finish it, or they can't afford to finish it, and then they got to sell, and then now you're trying to find somebody to sell this house that's half done for whatever the price is, so that you can make your money back, maybe a little bit of profit, probably a lot of bit of loss, and it just all turns upside down. So guys, you got to make sure that you know all the things, everything.
And if you have the opportunity to get under contract, or have kind of maybe more of a gentleman's handshake that you're going to buy it and it's kind of more off market, if you have those agreements in place, get as much of like the back end planning done then before you actually close, because the sooner you can get your permits, sooner any of the planning from the architect or whatever else you need done prep wise, line up your contractors. Again, timing matters, and if you can have almost all of that stuff
Ready to go,
next day you can start it. Like earlier this year, we sold a house that wasn't our cup of tea, but they basically, the day of closing at like noon, after they were closed, they had a crew in there demoing. They had dumpsters. Like it was very remarkable to see. But that's just a real life example that investors are out there doing their homework on the front half, knowing what they need to do. Prime example is that timing matters, planning matters. So day one, if you can do something, don't wait 6 weeks to get approval from permits. If you have the time, get as much of your front half stuff done before you close, and that will save you tremendously on your bottom line.
Yes, I would agree. And I don't think there's anything else that we want to talk about today.
Not today.
I think we went through a lot, guys. So remember, cushion, strategy, pricing. Those are the key factors with a lot of this stuff when it comes to buying, selling, and investing. And if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to us via direct message. Shoot us an email. You can find us on Google. We're the best out here. Real Talk Real Estate with Trevor and Brit. We're here every Wednesday. Check us out. Make sure you follow our YouTube page. It's coming this afternoon.
Also, give me some follows on my
please.
account, because apparently I can't go live. It's got to be through Brittany now because I don't have 1,000 followers. So
get you some followers. Get Trevor. Everybody go follow Trevor, please and thank you.
All right,
see
guys.
you soon.
We'll see you soon.